Gray fuel line will ruin your boat, so they say.
This might be the reason why your boat runs like garbage, or maybe why it doesn't even run at all. Gray fuel line has been the downfall of literally thousands of boats. So could gray fuel line ruin your boat right now? Maybe.
I've heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in my comment section over the past couple years commenting on my gray fuel line.
So stick around, we're gonna talk about if you need to replace your fuel line, and I'm even gonna show you how you can build your own custom fuel line for really cheap and easy. Now here's the truth, and where people get really confused about the whole gray fuel line thing.
Older gray fuel lines, especially ones from brands like Mercury, were not designed for modern ethanol. So what happens is that the inside liner starts to break down over time, it turns soft and sticky, then it literally flakes apart.
And once this stuff gets into your fuel pump and carburetor, it's too late. It'll do its damage fast. It'll clog your needle and seat, block your jets, and stop fuel from entering the bowl. So your motor might be cranking, but it's not running.
All right. Ooh, she's not running too good now.
Now, if you don't know what a carburetor does, it's pretty important. It basically creates the perfect concoction of fuel to air. This creates the perfect mixture for combustion. Now, this mixture of fuel and air gets sucked into the engine cylinder, and it explodes, providing power with a little help from your spark plugs. Now, this little needle in your carb is essentially the door for gas to enter. And if that front door gets clogged and jammed shut, you'll have restricted fuel flow or maybe no fuel flow at all. This leads to rough running or flat out not running at all. No fuel, no boom. Now you can easily see how if there's a bunch of gunk coming apart in your gray fuel line, how that's gonna make it inside your outboard, clog up your filter, maybe even make it past your filter, get into the fuel pump and eventually into the carburetor. It's gonna mess a lot of stuff up. Now, which gray fuel lines are actually the issue? And why gray is not the issue at all? Well, the issue started in the late 1990s and went all the way up to about 2012. And the worst part is that these fuel lines were OEM on mini boats, especially Mercury. And basically what happened is that when these older gray fuel lines pre-2012 were exposed to modern ethanol, it just simply shredded the inside of these fuel lines. Ethanol softened the inside of the hose, the inner lining peeled and flaked off, those flakes traveled into the carb, blocking the front door so gas never makes it in. But are you ready for the plot twist? It has nothing to do with gray line at all. Black hoses were doing the exact same thing. A lot of the OEM hoses coming out at that time just happened to be gray, so it got the blame. The color has nothing to do with this issue. Silly goose. The real issue was the material, not the color. Today's lines are built much better.
On this channel, the boats get all the attention, but what about the trucks that we have to pull them? Once again, today's video is sponsored by LastFit. Now, last time they sent me their LastFit LS Plus LED headlights for my old 2006 F-150, and they're still functioning perfectly to this day. And these are hands down the brightest and cleanest headlights I've ever had.
Now turn on the brights.
They go way up. Looks great. They haven't gotten hot, made weird noises, there's no flickering. Overall, I've experienced nothing out of the ordinary. You'd think they're factory.
And you can definitely tell, even in the daytime, how bright these things are.
The LastFit LS Plus was a super easy to install plug-and-play LED headlight upgrade designed to deliver strong nighttime visibility in OEM-style beam patterns for drivers upgrading from stock halogen bulbs. Now they have all sorts of awesome upgrades for our trucks, so if you'd like to check that out or these headlights for yourself, use code Greyson to get an extra 20% off all things on the LastFit website with the first link in the description. Huge thanks to LastFit for your continued support. Back to the video.
Now we have modern marine rated hoses, and it's designed specifically for ethanol fuel. It does not break down like the old stuff, and it's safe and recommended. And guess what, kitten? Some are gray and some are black. The segregation's over. The only thing that matters anymore is the fine print on the hoses themselves. So when buying a fuel hose, look for these markings regardless of color. My particular hose happens to have several of these markings, so I know that even though it's gray, it is just as safe as any color under the sun. The material is marine and ethanol rated. So let's say you have an older fuel line and you don't see any sort of markings like this. Gray, white, purple, pink, doesn't matter. If it's not properly rated, it's going to cause you issues. And let me tell you, replacing your fuel line is way cheaper and easier than ripping apart fuel pumps, filters, and carburetors. Not that that stuff's hard. The damage is reversible. We've done it on the channel. So if you're like me and you've got a small navy of cheap boats and old motors, you might want to go out and check your line right now. But in case you do need a replacement, I'm going to show you how insanely easy it is to slip off and put on new fuel lines so you can build build your own kit at home. Really easy and super cheap. Now I'm gonna show you how unbelievably idiot-proof it is to change the fuel line, and likely all you're going to need is a single flathead screwdriver. Ideally, all the hardware that you need is already there and still good. So let's dig in. Step number 1 is simple. Disconnect all of the lines that you have. Got one on the tank here. And the motor's got some funky little connector on it, but the bottom one is the only one that we need. Go ahead and pull all your line out. Make sure yours is not full of gas, mine is not. And now is a great time to assess the condition of 2 things. 1, your primer bulb. No dry rot, no cracks, no leaks. This one's healthy, we can reuse it. And your fuel filter. This one looks good enough to continue using. Which means all we gotta replace is the daggum hose. It's that easy. This is where your flathead comes in handy. Basically, these are called hose clamps, and they clamp the hose down so you can avoid fuel leaks. We need to remove every single one of these hose clamps that's holding our line onto the filter, the primer, and of course, the quick connects. It really is as simple as just unscrewing everything. With a little bit of convincing. There goes some fuel. So once it's disconnected, measure, cut, and just slip on your new hose. Make sure it's on there snug, get that clamp, and tighten it back down. It really is as easy as pulling off and putting on new line. And the good news is, fuel line is actually really cheap. Just lay it out with your old one, cut where it needs to be cut, and reinstall it. So, if you can turn a flathead screwdriver, you can replace fuel line. And now that you've learned a new skill, and while we're at it, this would be a great time to check the fuel lines inside your motor, because it's literally the exact same system. Fuel line and hose clamps. Now do yourself a favor, once you've got it all hooked up, go ahead and prime it, get some fuel flowing, and just check for leaks anywhere, inside the outboard, and of course you're gonna check your work. And don't freak out if it takes a while, there's gonna be a lot of air in your lines. It took a while, but my primer bulb is full and I have no leaks anywhere outside the tank or inside the motor, so we are looking good. Oh, and by the way, that arrow on the primer bulb is really important. That is the direction of the fuel flow. So make sure the arrow is pointed to the line that goes into the outboard motor. Now you can buy pre-made fuel line kits, but I find it way more economical just to build your own. Buying your own tank and motor adapters, buying your own primer bulb, getting your own hose, and even getting your own hose clamps. Cheap, quick, and easy. There is never any reason to have old gray fuel line or old black fuel line on your boat ever again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned something, and if not, you were at least entertained. As always, all the glory goes to our Father in heaven. Tight lines, and God bless.